thank you very much for staying on the Big Bulletin. My name is Emmanuel Aboagye-Wiafe. Good evening and welcome to Asaase Business PM. I'm here with my co-hosts, Rosemary, Balami. Rosemary, we've been missing in action for the couple of weeks.
Yes. It's good to be back, you know.
How was your journey or surgery?
It was smooth. How about yours?
Well, it was very, very exciting. All right, so tonight we're going to discuss the SDG-Hub. We're discussing the topic Waste Less, Live More, Promoting Responsible Consumption. And to discuss this, we have Emmanuel Akumun, Head of Communications at the Center for Sustainable Transformation, and Felix Laryea, Administration Manager at Accra Ventures. Business PM is proudly brought to you, kind courtesy in part of the Center for Sustainable Transformation. This is the SDG-Hub. Of course, we discuss the challenges and opportunities in everyday business to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs as we call them for short. On SDG-Hub, we introduce to you business cases and activities which in one way or the other are taking steps towards a more sustainable future here in Ghana and beyond. My name once again, Emmanuel Aboagye-Wiafe, and I'm doing this with
Rosemary Balami.
Well, so if you follow international news, there's no doubt that environmental degradation and climate change have become very critical for all of us. Tonight, we'll be asking how we as consumers can be part of the necessary transformation to more sustainable lifestyles, and to what extent sustainable consumption has the embedded power to make change also on the production side of the integrated systems of production and consumption. We'll do a deep dive into this transformative concept with a compelling topic that holds the key of hope: waste less, live more, promoting sustainable consumption in Ghana, and explore how each one of us can make the needed difference by embracing mindful choices in our everyday lives as part of Ghana's ambition to develop towards circular economy practices.
Yes, Emmanuel, we might rightfully say that Ghana was not prepared for the impact of the tsunami we are currently facing due to mass consumption, primarily made of non-degradable products and materials. We honestly don't have efficient take-back systems for the waste that we produce. And as a nation and individuals, we are not conscious of the environmental footprints our new patterns of consumption are causing. Can fostering a culture of conscious and responsible consumption carve out a more sustainable path for our economy? If we look at the household waste generation as an indicator of our private consumption, recent statistics by the World Health Organization shows that Accra, the capital city alone, produces approximately 2,200 tons of solid waste daily, which mostly ends up in landfills. This waste consists of many materials that cannot be recycled because they are contaminated by organic waste that make up 66% of our household waste. In addition, we have a growing middle class with a rapid consumption turnover of electronics, furniture, etc. It is clear that immediate action is required since the data offers a sobering picture of Ghana's trash dilemma and growing environmental footprint.
Fantastic statistics there, Rosemary. Yeah. As usual, we have a discussion here in our studios. Joining us on the topic for promoting sustainable consumption in Ghana are Emmanuel Akumun, Head of Communications at the Center for Sustainable Transformation, and Felix Laryea, Administration Manager at Accra Ventures. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, so Emmanuel is a known face here, but you've been on the show before. Right?
Yes.
Okay. But just tell us what you do as a normal day-to-day,
Okay, so I'm the communications lead at the Center for Sustainable Transformation, and my work there mostly revolves around social media, graphics, research, and content.
Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting. Now, Felix, what do you do as an administration manager at Accra Ventures?
Right, I want to say good evening to you and good evening to your cherished listeners and viewers, I think. Okay. So at Accra, as administration manager, I'm supposed to make sure that work goes on. So how do we synergize together, looking at all the departments, providing their needs, making sure that they are well equipped to be able to do the work that they are supposed to do on a daily basis.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Interesting. Well, so let's move into action, and I'm starting with you, Emmanuel. So what does sustainable and responsible consumption mean, and how can it positively impact the environment and society here in Ghana?
Okay, so the concept of responsible consumption or sustainable consumption is just mainly a practice of choosing products that are environmentally friendly whether they are for personal, whether they are for office, or whether they are for public use.
Okay.
So it entails choosing products that have been made in a way that they minimize their environmental impact. Yes. And sometimes you can actually immediately tell if a product is environmentally sustainable. Like if you go to buy food, for instance, and you have it packaged in the styrofoam, you can immediately tell that that's not sustainable because it doesn't degrade.
Great. Okay.
Yes. As opposed to insisting that the food is packaged in maybe, say, wache leaves, for instance. And sometimes you have to look out for eco labels. So what it means mostly is that you choose products that are. It means making conscious decisions to choose products that are
environmentally friendly.
Or certified, I guess.
And when it comes to the benefits, there are a lot of benefits that sustainable products can accrue to the environment. And one is the environmental impacts of the products.
Okay.
If, like the example I just gave of using plastics to package our food, for instance, so you can always tell that environmentally having that many plastics around is not good. And then secondly, there's the reduced health risks. And as we well know, sustainable products are made in a way that they are mostly chemical free. So as a consumer of sustainable products or items, you know that it reduces putting you in the way of maybe contracting diseases because most of the items used in there are organic.
Okay, right. Pretty
Great.
good.
So now let's come to you, Felix, as well. How does Jacora Ventures actively contribute to reducing waste in Ghana, and how do you go about promoting responsible consumption?
Okay, so Jacora is a waste management company, and our vision is to be a leading integrated waste management and resource recovery company that will improve Ghana's environment and public health. So this drives a lot of the things we do. So we, as a company, we have looked at how we can divert as much waste as possible from the landfill.
Okay.
We are a solid waste management company, mainly. That's where our core business lies.
Okay.
But over the years, there's been a challenge trying to find landfills. I mean, as far back as I can remember, landfills have been an issue. So
Here in Accra?
Here in Accra. Well, outside Accra, I think in the big cities, Kumasi and elsewhere. So we had to look at other ways of managing the waste, other ways of dealing with waste so that we don't have to be sending everything to the landfill. So as far back as 2012, we began to look at how we can divert waste from the landfills. And then we started with the compost. You mentioned in your statistics that about 66% of our waste is organic waste.
Yes.
And all that can be used, all that can be composted, all that can be diverted from the mainstream.
Okay.
I mean, that's what's going to the landfill. And that is something that can come back to benefit us in the area of agriculture and all of that. So we looked at it and started there. I mean, we didn't want to wait to have everything we needed to start, but we believe that taking one step at a time would help save the environment at the end of the day. So we started with organics, going in, and with our approach, because of the cross-contamination that happens when you lump everything together, we decided to go with a source separation approach, where we have to come in and do some education so that generators of the waste do not co-mingle everything together. But at the point of generation, you separate whatever you are having as waste. It's not easy. It's not the easiest thing to do sometimes for me, myself. But right now, because I've done it for some time, it's become difficult. Yeah. Sometimes I have a bottle and I'm in the kitchen. And in the kitchen, there's organic and then other waste. I cannot drop it in there. I have to go out and then put it in.
But how has it been so far in terms of this waste separation? Have communities really grasped the concept, and are they able to separate their waste for you people to be able to recycle it?
Yeah. So what we do is to identify generators that have appreciable volumes, because whatever you're doing should make economic sense, and that also helps make it sustainable. So our operational area, our main operational area is in the Polyclote municipal area. We also have operations in Adenta and Aboagye-Wiafe. So we identify some of the clients who generate appreciable volumes. We come in, have a conversation.
So is it like food vendors?
So you have the hotels, you have chop bars, you have food vendors, you have certain companies that are producing a lot of paper and all of that. So you identify them, we come in to do the education right from the very top to the very last person,
okay,
so that everybody, we have the buy-in on the top, and then everybody along the chain understands what we are doing, so that when you start, you make sure that you are able to carry it through.
Absolutely.
So depending on what volumes you have or what kind of waste you have, then we are able to tell whether you are doing all the streams. So the main streams we do are organic, paper, plastics, and then what we call the general waste. Okay. There's a bit of e-waste and then sometimes glass as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so we come in, we do the training, and then based on what you have, we start separating and collecting them separately, so that you may have the general waste where what we are not separating or recycling yet goes into. We believe that gradually we'll be able to add other streams as we have means to deal with.
So on the issue of recycling, for instance, circular economy is a term that often comes up when we talk about sustainable patterns of consumption and production. So to briefly explain, the circular economy is a systematic approach to how we produce and consume, where nothing goes waste. Like in natural ecosystems, rather, there are take-back systems for all materials, for either energy or material recovery. Everything has a second purpose. This also builds on principles of promoting resource efficiency and waste and emission reduction, and even better, elimination of waste and emissions. In a country like Ghana, for instance, where waste management is a huge issue, how does Jacora Ventures engage, with communities to foster a culture of responsible consumption, eventually a circular economy?
Okay. So we like to look at it and not call it waste, but materials in transition. I'm sure this is not new, so that it changes the way you deal with it in the first place. Yeah. For our experience, dealing with the communities, so you have different kind of people making up the communities. But in the local setting, we like to go through the traditional leaders. So we have several engagements with our traditional leaders, and we try to work with them to be able to get to the people. We have debates with them, where we have maybe some drama series and other things showing to be able to demonstrate to the people what we believe the right thing to do is. And then through the assemblies also, by our laws, the waste actually belongs to the state. And
interesting.
So once you generate waste, it's not your property. The state is supposed to tell you how to handle it.
Is it different elsewhere?
I don't think so, because otherwise then you are allowed to throw it anywhere. But this is supposed to guide you, so that you know that once you have waste, you cannot just get up and then just dump it anywhere. You need to be directed. You need to be shown who should manage your waste for you. Right.
So what would you say are some of the most common barriers or obstacles that you are encountered with in your operations, and how do you overcome them?
In our general operations, that's in waste management.
I'm talking about for responsible consumption. If you want to ensure responsible consumption, what are some of them?
I think the first and major one would be behavioral change. We are used to certain patterns. We are used to certain ways of behaving. And I believe that once we are able to deal with that, we'll go a long way. Because once people understand why they should do this and not that, why they should separate and not just eat and then put everything in one bin, why they should go the extra mile to care about what happens to what they are dropping at the end of the day. Once that understanding is there, I think half of the work is done. Once they understand that, okay, I have generated waste, but I need to pay for the treatment of the waste. I need to spend some money to make sure that this waste is treated properly, and that doesn't come back to harm me at the end of the day. Once that understanding is there, I think that it goes a long way.
So you don't think there should be more production of sustainable products in Ghana as an alternative to non-degradables that we currently throw around here?
Oh, definitely. We should change. Even at the point of production, we should take a more sustainable approach, because we are dealing with this because we produce materials that are not sustainable. Once we begin to change our attitudes, once we begin to change our practices in our production patterns, I think this problem will be soon be a thing of the past. I mean, we've been talking about plastics for I don't know how long. What is alternative? Are we looking at the alternative? Are producers interested in getting into the alternative? We have a few paper bags around, and I think that is something we could promote. How durable are they? Are we looking into? Do we have research institutions, educational institutions looking into how we can make this durable so that people don't mind switching? Do I want to go through the extra pain of going to shop with my own bag instead of going to the shopping mall and then going away with about 5-6 bags. Can each and every one of us refuse maybe 2 or 3 bags each time we go shopping, so that you go and then they want to separate everything and put it in a different bag for you. You can ask them, please put them in the same, unless it will damage something, put them in the same bag.
Right.
I take it home.
Now, Emmanuel, from your experience, what roles or what does education, or how does education play in shaping consumer behavior towards more responsible choices? Are there any initiatives or programs targeted at raising such awareness among Ghanaian students?
Oh, okay. So, aside from the knowledge and awareness that it creates, I think another major role that education plays in bringing forth the gospel of sustainable consumption is that it makes you understand consequences. Like, for instance, I made a resolution this year to stop consuming soda products the moment I understood the health impacts of it. So by stopping to do that, that's one less plastic on the streets.
It's not easy. It sometimes becomes addictive, and people are trying to stop.
Yes. So the moment you understand the consequences of some of the things that you consume as a result of having come in contact with education, it changes. And what that leads to is behavioral change. And yes, to answer the second part of the question, there are actually a number of initiatives and programs. Like here in Ghana, particularly in schools, the Center for Sustainable Transformation is running the Eco Schools program, which is owned by the international non-governmental organization known as the Foundation for Environmental Education. And the program is designed primarily for schools and educational institutions. And what it does is it empowers students and teachers, and as well as the larger community, to become more environmentally conscious and take action towards sustainability. So for programs and what education does, that's it.
Yeah, doing fantastic. So let me come to you, Felix. You talked about Jekora organizing derbes and all that, partnering with traditional chiefs and all. So does Ghana's culture, does it encourage sharing and communal living? And how can these values be harnessed to be, revalued in a sustainable perspective?
So I think that when it comes to learning, looking at the way we even live, then it becomes easier for one of the things we do is to do a lot of training with the schools. We believe that you go home and then your mother may be doing something. You can tell her, oh, this is what we're taught in school, and this is how we believe that it should be done. Through that setting, it's easier to transfer the knowledge, it's easier to share, it's easier to learn. Even when you take the recycling we are doing and trying to promote, one of the obstacles we see is people talking about the receptacles. And they need to maybe acquire several bins because they need to separate the waste. If you look at the communal setting, you can have one household buying one bin, another household, and then you share. So that instead of having to buy maybe 4 bins for my household alone, because of that situation, you can share. And then we are putting organics in one, we are putting paper. At the end of the day, it's collected and work can be done on it. So yes, we can use it to our advantage. There are certain instances where instead of working together and building, we try to rather create divisions. But I think we should take advantage of that. And then having the environment in mind, see how we can all harness that to our benefit.
Fantastic. So, supporting local producers and artisans is an aspect of sustainable consumption, right? How can consumers prioritize buying locally made products to benefit communities?
Okay, so first of all, I think that we need to pay attention to the materials that are used in whatever we are producing with sustainability in mind, so that in producing you're concerned about what will happen to the product after it's used. What happens to it? Can it be reused? Does it go waste and all of that? Then we begin to let people understand the need, because if it's no different from what is coming from outside, it's no different from what is coming from elsewhere, why should I change? Why should I use this? So if we want to push that, we should also make sure that the quality is good.
It's good.
Sometimes people complain about even pricing, that items are produced here and people produce outside and ship all the way, and it's more expensive. That is something that we should also be able to look at. And that will come from, I think, the top down, so that it's made affordable. We make sure it is sustainable as maybe a national policy, making sure that producers adhere to certain standards, and not just producing anything at all, anything they want at all. And then gradually we can be able to push that. But if it doesn't meet the needs of the people, then it becomes a difficult thing trying to push them or trying to get them to get into it. The final thing I like to say on that is that it's usually driven by demand.
Okay.
So once there's demand, then suppliers will be forced to go that way. So if we as Ghanaians have that make that conscious effort to refuse things that are not sustainable and go in for those that are sustainable, the demand will be there. Producers and suppliers will be forced to toe that line, and then we can make it.
So talking about that, for instance, how can we be part of forcing more sustainable materials and products in the market? How can we do that?
Well, I think it comes back to the same, because if I refuse to buy what you're bringing for certain reasons, and you know what the reasons are, you begin to change because you want your goods sold, you want your services used or something like that. So you definitely want to look at what the consumers want, look at what will sell, look at what will make sense to them, and then try to. But
Ghana as a country, do we really have this sustainable alternatives that people can actually refuse these ones and go for them? Are we there yet?
I think with we need to do a lot of education, and I like what this show is doing. People need to understand that if we keep going the way we are going, at the end of the day, we all tend to suffer. Every human endeavor occurs in the environment.
Yeah.
If we do not protect it, if we do not preserve it, at the end of the day, we are the only losers. Right?
Sure.
So once people have this understanding, then we can begin to see change. Enforcement also has a big role to play here. I always say that people out there don't do the right thing just because they feel like doing it. They do it because sometimes they know that if you go against it, you will pay for it.
Exactly.
Your uncle, your auntie's position will not help you. You will pay for it. So you do what you have to do.
Right. Now, Emmanuel, in what ways can policymakers and the government support sustainable consumption practices and also incentivize businesses to adopt eco-friendly approaches?
Okay, so I just want to borrow from what he said about enforcing regulation, and I feel that one way the government can assist is in enforcing regulations by setting or putting in place certain or minimum requirements for environmentally friendly or eco-friendly practices that must be observed in different industries, and that's going to help a lot. The second aspect is offering people who are interested in venturing into the markets low interest loans or tax breaks. That's going to go a long way in promoting the move from the current consumption practices that we have to more sustainable products. Yeah.
So, when we talk about responsible consumption, energy efficiency is also a part of it. So what are some energy saving practices that individuals and business can adapt in Ghana?
Okay, so let me just give an example towards one of our partners, Trashy Bags, whom we partnered during the pilot of the plastic-free school program. They recently had solar panels installed at their facility, and they are planning on, in the very shortest time, moving away from being connected to the public power supply. So the entire factory is going to be run solely on solar. Yeah, and that's one of the practices that as a business out there. Yeah.
Fantastic. So research by the Global Food Network reveals that approximately 3.2 million tons of food is either lost or wasted along the supply chain in Ghana, costing about 762.32 billion in Ghanaian cedis. While half the population is moderately to severely food insecure, this shows clearly how food waste is a significant problem in many countries. How can Ghanaians reduce food waste and support sustainable food production and consumption, Felix?
I think we need to pay attention to the food network, right from the point of production through to the consumption stage. One thing that a lot of us have not paid attention to is how we even grow the food. So at Accra, we have a product called Fortify, that's organic compost that we produce with fecal sludge and then food waste. And we grew I think we grew tomatoes with it. and we put the tomatoes on the shelf in the office. And I think for over 3 weeks it was there, and it just shrunk. It did not water, it just shrunk. As we speak, we grew maize with it in 2015. It's still on the shelf today. All right, so that even helps with the kind of fertilizer you're growing your food with. When you're done with that, you're transporting the food. What is our transportation network like? I mean, these statistics are scary. They are very scary. What is it like? So we need to really work on that. Make sure that we are providing and maybe better ways of transporting our food. When you come to storage, do we have storage facilities? When the food is produced, what happens to it? Do we have industries that can turn some of them into finished products? These are things that we can do to make sure that we save all this food that is going away.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your insights and expertise on the program. That's all for today's episode on Waste Less, Live More, Promoting Sustainable Consumption in Ghana. Make sure to tune in same time next week as we continue discussions on all things sustainable development right here on Asaase Radio 99.5 so that people and the planet can prosper. If you have a topic you would like us to discuss, shoot an email to sdg-hub@cest.org. Until next time, remember the choices we make today will shape the Ghana of tomorrow.
Thank you very much for staying with us on the SDG-Hub. We've been speaking with Emmanuel Akumun, Head of Communications at the Center for Sustainable Transformation, and Felix Laryea, Administration Manager at Accra Ventures. I've been your host, Emmanuel Aboagye-Wiafe, together with
Rosemary Balami.